bringing sports, entertainment, and technology podcasts together. This is SPNT.
You're listening to the Who-Dey Weekly Podcast. Who-Dey Weekly is brought to you by Stitcher.com. Download the Stitcher Smart Radio app today at Stitcher.com/SPNT. What's happening, Bengals fans? Subs here for Who-Dey Weekly episode 94. Bengals victorious over the Philadelphia Eagles last week. A very ugly performance. But hey, a win is a win, and that's all you can ask for at this time of the year. Like I said, glad you could join us here for episode 94. I'm Nick Superling, joined alongside my tag team partner, Mickey Metzer. What's happening, Mick? How you been, bud?
I've been pretty good, man. I like the way the Bengals turned it around, so it makes everything good, right?
It makes everything good. Obviously, there was a lot of discontent, a little anger, frustration Thursday night, or last Thursday night, I should say, as the Bengals took on the Eagles. It looked bad for a while. Fortunately, they were able to turn things around with some turnovers in the second half, forced by the defense and the special teams. We'll touch on that in just a bit. Just a reminder, you can email us, podcast@whodayfans.com. You can also give us a follow on Twitter. We are at Who-Dey Weekly. We'll also be joined a little bit later on. I had a chance to sit down with Paul Dehner of CBSSports.com to talk about the upcoming game against the Steelers. We'll play that interview a little bit later. We'll also get to some of your feedback. We got a lot of great feedback this week from a lot of different fans across the globe for these Bengals. So we'll get into that and a whole bunch more. Like I said, an email, podcast@whodayfans.com. We'd love to hear from you, so please feel free to send us your emails as well. All right, Mick, last week you were MIA, but you're back. And the Eagles game was not pretty, but the offensive line, poor. Andy Dalton, not good. But, you know, at the end of the day, the Bengals win. They're now 8-6, and really the destiny is in their own hands. They control their own fate.
Right. I mean, it did help, us winning, the Steelers losing. We kind of controlled our own fate before that, if as long as we kept winning, because the game with the Steelers we had it. But now, I mean, it really is on us. It really is on the Bengals to take care of business. And you know me, I'm the eternal optimist. And even during the game when things may not be going so well and Twitter's blowing up with Bengals fans freaking out,
I was.
I know, I get it, and you want a better showing, but when you look at the end result and you see one NFL team go on the road and beat another one by 3 touchdowns, that's a huge margin in the NFL, and got to be happy with that. And people, but the offense, or but the different phases of the game stepped up, and the Bengals were able to, just in the end crush them. So you have to be happy about that. There's always things you can improve on in a game. And I think that, the defense helped out the offense when they were down. They caused turnovers. I think that was kind of what hurt us in the Dallas game. The fact that we had some picks that we just didn't make. It seemed like that, one of the defense focus was to create turnovers, and they did, and it obviously worked out, especially when we had that 3 minutes where we scored 24 points. That's insane.
That was pretty remarkable. And for a while there, like I said, the offense was in a lull. They couldn't move the football. The Philly defensive line they manhandled the offensive line. It wasn't even close. Dalton had no time, or in other cases, he held onto the ball for too long. So you had that going into it. So they're down in the second half, and Leon Hall finally gets an interception, his first of the season, and returns it about 40 yards or so, and that seemed to be the spark. That really got them going, because then they could relax a little bit. And how about that run by Dalton? I wouldn't say it's a quarterback draw, but he kept it himself, and that guy's jock is still on the 5-yard line there at the link.
That's not, you don't expect those moves out of our ginger, but hey, we'll take it. That was nice. That was heads up play. It worked. It was awesome, and I do think you're right. Like we got some swagger on the pick, and when we were set up, so yeah, he was holding on to the ball too long. I would say, just like you said, the offensive line, failed a lot in their protection, but I think that's something that we're going to see probably again this Sunday. I think our defensive line is going to have no problem with their offensive line, and we may struggle a little bit with their pass rush, but I hope we learn some things in Philly so that, when we play the team west of there, we have a little bit tighter on our offensive line, because I would say that was probably the biggest weakness. Even though we still got our running game going, just the time or the lack of time that Dalton had. And I think it messed with him too, like when you're saying he was holding on to the ball too long or not long enough or even rolling into the pressure,
right,
as he did a couple times. But, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff on film, and to be able to get that stuff and still win the game that way, that's pretty awesome.
And in fairness, coming off a short week, those are probably not the easiest games to prepare for. I'm not making any excuses, because it was a bad Philly team that really they should have had. It shouldn't have been close. I understand it's the NFL, and they're professionals too. They're collecting a paycheck as well. But still, to me, I was expecting more, at least early. I'm glad they figured it out. I'm glad they were able to eventually put points on the board, and they made Philly look pretty bad towards the end based on the final score. But the game, as they always say, was a lot closer than the experts thought it would be, which was unfortunate. But hey, like we said, a win is a win, and that is all that matters. So with that, we'll wrap up Philly. We've got a lot of feedback to get to. I was amazed at some of the feedback we got this week. We got an audio file, believe it or not, an MP3 sent to me from Scotland all the way across the pond. Let's take a listen.
Greetings and Who-Dey, Bengals Nation. This is Mike Donnelly, all the way from Scotland. Thank you to Nick for allowing me to contribute to the podcast with this little audio. I will try not to blather too much. Basically, I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thanks to Who-Dey Weekly for keeping me informed on the Bengals in such an insightful manner, and it's been great chatting to everyone in the chat room when I've been able to stay up on the red eye and try and contribute to the discussion. I find it great that there's such a diverse following for this franchise, and given that it's the first full year where I've taken the NFL seriously and really got into it, I've really enjoyed it. The thing is about, I think my personality, as soon as I get interested in something, I just get completely obsessed with it, and that has been the case with the NFL and the Cincinnati Bengals. I was really excited by the game in Philly. It's even better watching it live, although I kept getting a delay on my Game Pass, so everything on Twitter was telling me what was happening, which was a bit, I had to switch it off. But very exciting, and I think there were people who were, me included, who started out so optimistic, and by the middle of the game were starting to doubt the Bengals' chances. And thought it was all over. I think in that game, Perfect was great. Particularly the second half, I was very impressed by him, and it's great to see the defence getting takeaways. That's always a good thing. I keep learning new things about this Bengals team every week, and I get the feeling that the players learn new things about their teammates every week. Another great addition is Dalton scrambling. I think it's great. He doesn't look as natural as, say, Robert Griffin or Cam Newton or Aaron Rodgers, but that is a great aspect, and you can see that he's confident, and he's so enthusiastic, and I think that's great. I think Dalton's enthusiasm is brilliant. Regarding Marvin, because I'm coming to it quite late, I find it amazing that a coach has been given 10 years, but I can understand the legacy that he's built up, and although sometimes him and Gruden and Zimmer sort of allow us to get frustrated with some of the play calls, I think that their head's in the right place. They understand the game, and that's great, because it means that they won't crack under pressure, and I think that's good. the challenge thing and the timeout thing is a wee bit erratic, but we could have many, many worse coaches, and arguably there's a few better than Marvin, but you know, it's great to see, because you see again his quarterback mirrors his enthusiasm, and it's great to see enthusiasm. It doesn't matter what sport it is. Like over here, Scottish football isn't a place where enthusiasm is very high, obviously because of Celtic and Rangers dominance, but when there is enthusiasm, I love to see it, and you see that every week in the NFL. It's great. Right, I've blathered on for long enough. That just leaves me to say thanks once again to Nick. Thanks to all of you for allowing me to be part of the Bengals family. And Who-Dey.
There you have it. We are worldly, Mickey.
It's pretty sweet. I mean, it just makes me happy to know that there are, these dudes all across the planet just rooting on the Who-Dey like we are. It's pretty awesome.
It's to think about that, it really is a global game, even though it's not maybe as popular there as it is here. And same thing with soccer, here compared to there. But the fact that we have Bengals fans across the globe is just fantastic. I talked to our friend John from Australia. It sounds like, though, he didn't get a chance to meet up with you at the Dallas game, did he?
No, we never crossed paths, but, I mean, I know he was there. I know he had fun. So that's all it's about, man. It's cool.
The fact that you had somebody from Australia come to Cincinnati for a football game, that tells you about the global brand that is the National Football League. And better yet, they're fans of the Bengals, and that's ultimately the best part. Again, thanks to Mike Donnelly all the way over in Scotland. That was my best Scottish. I'm done. But hey, if you want to, send us an audio file, you're more than welcome to email us. We'll play it during the show. That email is podcast@whodayfans.com. We'd love to hear from you. We got another email this week from Lee, our good friend Lee up in Puyallup, Washington. I hope I got that right. Every time I say Puyallup, I seem to butcher it. But he writes, "Here we go." And I don't know if you know that reference. That's to their Pittsburgh Super Bowl song. I don't know if you've heard that before, Mickey.
No.
All right. Well, it always starts with "Here we go." So that's why he starts with "Here we go."
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I got you.
The Bengals have put themselves in good position. Now, will this Bengals team be different? Can and will they win the big game when they have to? I don't know if I can sit next to my buddy from Pennsylvania and huge Steelers fan this weekend, and the Bengals lose this game, I won't hear the end of it. It's for a trip to the playoffs. Besides the year the Bengals swept the division, recently they've been owned by the Steelers and Ravens. Dalton and Green have to carry this team on offense. Dalton needs to beat the Steelers now. He's good, but he needs to win a big game against a good team. The Steelers have not been good this year, but they will be on Sunday. You know they will. They always are in big games against us. Who-Dey, as always, great show. Thanks, Lee. We appreciate the feedback. We love the email. Yeah, it brings up some good points, though, Mick. It seems like the Steelers and Ravens really have Dalton's number at the moment.
I mean, yeah, with the small sample size, and I would argue that they have the Bengals number more at the moment. This is the kind of game that, in every NFL game, there's going to be mistakes, and you just don't want those to define the game. And it seems like when the Bengals play the Steelers and the Ravens, for the most part, it starts off competitive, or they even, for example, when we played them, it was the Sunday night game, I believe, earlier in the year.
Yeah.
The Bengals were up at the beginning, and it looked great. And then, there's a mistake, and we fall apart, and we get conservative. And I think, even the sidelines, kind of have that same feeling like, oh, no, did we just mess up? And we really shouldn't be facing this game and the next one. They should be nervous to play us right now. Those two teams are struggling, and the Bengals seem to be hot. So, you want to put your foot on the gas, and this could be your statement game. I mean, if they go out there and they just handle the Steelers like it doesn't even matter, like they're the Eagles, you're making a statement to the going into the postseason, and you've got that monkey off your back. I mean, I think that by far the Bengals are a better team, and I said weeks ago when you made that prediction they were going to rip off 5 in a row, and I said if they do that, they're going to beat the Steelers because they're not that good. And look what happened. I mean, they've lost a ton of games. The Ravens have lost a bunch of games. These teams aren't as good as their reputation said they should be, or even people thought they were weeks ago. So, yeah, I'm just pumped that this game is happening like this. Their backs are against the wall more than ours. I mean, right now it's our spot to give up. So I'm pretty pumped, and I think I can't wait. I mean, I wish it was a Thursday night game again, but yeah, it's pretty exciting. Good week, Steeler week. I love it.
Steelers week is a lot of fun. And you know what I really, I don't know if I want to say I enjoyed it, but I noticed the way they handled that, the way that Andy Dalton and AJ Green handled themselves in the post-game show on the NFL Network. And they talked about, is this the same old Bengals? They don't beat anybody. They always choke in the big games. They're the losers that are known as the Bengals. And what Andy Dalton said, we don't know. This is our Bengals. We don't know anything about the history. We're coming into this as new players, a new regime. So we don't know any better. So I love that they take that approach to the game, that the past is the past. None of that matters. This is their time now, and I'm hoping. Let's hope, because we've seen this before, that they take that next step and they realize the opportunity that they have in front of them. We've got a Steelers team that's banged up in the secondary. No Ike Taylor. Troy Polamalu didn't practice today. He's probably going to play, but he is not the same Troy Polamalu that we've faced the last 10 years. They're old on the defensive line. James Harrison not doing the same type of things he was doing just 2 years ago. There's an opportunity here for the Bengals to go into Pittsburgh and win this football game. Hey, hell, San Diego just went into to Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago and beat the crap out of them. So there's no reason the Bengals can't go into Heinz Field and win this ball game. So really, the opportunity is right there in front of them. We hope as Bengals fans, for our sanity, that they finally take advantage of this and actually win in Pittsburgh. We'll get to our bold predictions and that and a whole bunch more here in just a minute. But just a reminder, hey, you can email us, podcast@whodayfans.com. Give us a follow on Twitter. We're at Who-Dey Weekly. If you get a chance and you listen to the show on iTunes, or you have an iOS device and you listen to the show through the podcast app, we would really appreciate it if you have a moment to leave us a review on the podcast page there at iTunes. You can get to our page at whodayfans.com/iTunes. Before we get to shout-outs, let's hit up the Who-Dey line. Hi, who's this?
Hey Nick, what's going on? This is Jeremy Tournament from Windsor, Ontario, Canada.
Hey, what's happening, Jeremy? How's the weather up in Canada? Nice and cold, eh?
It's it's getting colder and colder, but so far no snow yet.
Well, that's good. By the way, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to this show last week, Mickey, but Jeremy correctly predicted 34-13.
I know. I did hear that, and I actually listened to it after I wrote my post. So him and I are in the same boat. We're on it, man.
Yeah.
Let's go to Vegas.
So what are your thoughts about Sunday, Jeremy?
Well, oh my God, I gotta say, the first and second quarter, I was getting nervous. I was like, okay, the Bengals are starting to look like the old 2008 Bengals that were 4-11. Like, they were starting to make me nervous. But then when they went in the locker room in halftime and came out in the third quarter, our defense was phenomenal. Who was it that made the I think it was Pat Sims, who leveled Bryce Brown and got that fumble. And then Vontaze Burfict had a great game. The whole defense played well. The defense won that game for us.
Absolutely, and they've been playing lights out the last 5 or 6 weeks.
Just so you know, I know you said Sunday, and I'm talking about the game on Thursday.
Right.
So I was talking about the Thursday game. But let's get to Sunday. So, like you said, I'm in the chat room. So, like, Ike Taylor's out, so that's going to be a target for Andy Dalton. So, but I think we got to run it. I think we got to run the ball, mix it up with Ben Jarvis, maybe get Boom Heron some runs in there. And I think if we, because the win on Thursday, I think we're going into Pittsburgh with high confidence. And I think because we have the momentum going in on Sunday against Pittsburgh, so I think it'll be. It's hard to say. I want to say it'll be the defense that will win the game for us. But I'm saying I'm just pumped. I'm pumped for Sunday, man.
Well, give us a score prediction.
Well, I'm gonna say usually these Pittsburgh Bengals games are really close, so I'm gonna say 35-27. Our Bengals win 35-27.
Well, there you have it. Jeremy says the Bengals put up 35 in Heinz Field. Hey, stay warm there in Canada. Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you next week.
Merry Christmas to you too. Who-Dey.
All right. There you go. 35 points. Awfully tough task there in Pittsburgh, Mickey.
Very tough. I'm typing in the chat room talking about my boy Boom.
Well, here's the thing. I thought that he would get more carries against the Eagles, and he looked when he did get carries to spell Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. I thought he did. You know, I almost would rather him get the carries than Leonard. Leonard's a different kind of back. He's more. I would almost rather have him as a fullback than a halfback. But Herron's a little quicker, obviously.
I agree with that. I'm not excited when Leonard's there. You kind of know what he's going to give you.
It's either going to be a shovel pass or a screenplay, you know.
And he's going to try to jump over someone. I mean, we've seen the act, and nothing against Leonard. I really like the dude. Huge plays in the past, but I agree. Like with Boom, like he's a tough running back. I mean, when he ran at Ohio State, he took a pounding and just got those tough yards. But I mean, you can't tell me you're not pumped with the special teams play. I mean, he's going all out to just disrupt punts, and I mean, I love it. It's awesome.
He's been great on special teams since they signed him to the to the team. I mean, that's been a nice little diamond in the rough. You know, that I hope. I would assume that the way he's played, that they're going to keep him around. They should at least.
They have to, right? I mean, he's producing, and I mean, he's so close to just tipping every punt. I mean, he's so close to just taking them all down.
I agree with you, and you know what? And even if he's not playing on the line and trying to block punts, there's probably the opportunity, maybe potentially, of him returning punts. He's quick enough. He's probably skilled enough. We saw, Brandon Tate 2 weeks ago catch a punt on the 1 yard line. You can't do that. But look, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I did read this earlier today. Pearman practiced, which is good news because he did quite well when he had his little run there as the primary backup to Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. So who knows what's going to happen with Herron and his carries? But at least Herron will be there, full go on the special teams. One thing that I wanted to bring up regarding special teams before we move on to our shout-outs, Mickey, and this is near and dear to your heart, Mike Nugent, injured, hasn't kicked the last 2 weeks. Josh Brown has come in. He's made his field goals and provided a special teams a short little pooch kick that Bengals got the ball right back. Kickers are a dime a dozen. I know how it is. But do you think maybe that with the way Brown is kicked that maybe they'll keep him around? I honestly, being a kicker – and seeing the way he's put the ball through the uprights, he boomed a 50-yarder against the Cowboys. I think they should maybe consider keeping him around. His kickoffs are fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Nugent has to be worried for his, the future because, I mean, Brown coming in and making the real long one, on his first, I think it was his first kick. I don't remember.
First or second, yeah.
Yeah, and he's consistently putting the kicks into the end zone. Except for one where I think that was the plan. But, yeah, I mean, he's kicking well. I mean, I like Nugent. I mean,
we all do. We all do. And I would hate to see him lose his job because of an injury.
Yeah, but, I mean, he's solid. I mean, Brown's solid. And if anything, there's enough kickers struggling right now that, they'll both be working next year. But I don't know. Like, I am impressed with his kickoffs and his clutch kick so far. So, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You want the guy who's hot, though, because so far he hasn't missed, knock on wood. Nugent maybe not having his best year accuracy-wise, kicking field goals, but there's a lot of other factors that play into that. All right, let's do some shout-outs.
Shout-outs!
Who you got this week, Mick?
I'm going to shout out Twitter in general. And I know that the game at 1 o'clock on Sunday is going to – it's going to be raw emotion. It's going to be insane. And I just want – level-headed. I don't want anyone jumping off the bridge in the first quarter, calling the season over. Like there's 4 quarters in the game. I'm going to be on Twitter, so I'm hoping I'm not having to talk people down the whole time. So I'm going to shout out all you Twitters. Just take a breath and realize there's plenty of game to be played.
That is a good one. I am guilty of that. It's you're in the moment. It happens. I can't. I'm passionate. What can I say? I'm going to give a shout out to at Ned Mold. His name's Todd. He wants a shout out this week. I believe that's Jeremy's dad, who just called us on the phone, by the way. He asked for a shout out on Twitter. So there you go, at Ned Mold. Also, a shout out to Devin DiStefano. He's at Seatown Bungle. I meant to give him a shout out last week, but I missed him. So Devin, there's your shout out. If you want to be shouted out here on Who-Dey Weekly, give us a follow on Twitter. We're at Who-Dey Weekly. You can give Mickey a follow as well. He's at Who-Dey Fans. And Tim, you can always give him a follow as well, at Tim Boots, TIMMBOOTS. I have a little bit of a dilemma on Sunday, Mickey. We are celebrating Christmas with the in-laws on Sunday. It also happens to be my wife's birthday.
I did know this.
So, yeah, I'm really hoping that I'll be able to watch the game live. I may have to stay off Twitter because I may be watching the game delayed like you did the Eagles game.
Yep.
It's a little
Stay
rough.
off Twitter then.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough because my phone will be blowing up with tweets. I know it, and that's.
Yep, I could hear it. I could hear my phone the whole time. You just gotta ignore it.
Maybe my wife will be understanding. I don't know. We'll see. It might not even be on there where they're at. So who knows? But again, let's transition here. Earlier in the week, I had a chance to sit down with Paul Dehner of CBSSports.com, and we talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers game. And here's that interview. Well, the Bengals have a tough sled the rest of the way. They have a nice little AFC North gauntlet to go through, although you could argue that it's not necessarily a gauntlet right now considering where those two teams are. Steelers struggling, Ravens, but hey, the Bengals have a chance to control their own destiny with a win in Pittsburgh on Sunday. They clinch a playoff spot. Joining us here on Who-Dey Weekly to talk about just that is Paul Dehner of CBSSports.com. Paul, thanks for joining us again here on Who-Dey Weekly.
Thrilled to be back. I was wondering if I did something wrong last time because I hadn't been back in a while. I'm just happy you'll let me back into your ever-popular zone here.
Hey, the door is always open for a man of Moeller, Paul.
Of course, especially now in these great times. I've been calling it the year of the Crusader this year because we had Barlow from Butler. It's the game winner of Indiana. You got state championship football team. It's the year of the Crusaders.
Well, speaking of Crusades, a nice little segue here. The Bengals on a nice one here. It's funny that, and we have not had this opportunity in quite some time to be talking about a team here in Week 16 with potential playoff hopes in back-to-back years. This is, usually when the Bengals make the playoffs under Marvin Lewis, they kind of regress and they really hit a wall. But this year, it's a completely different story. What do you make of that?
Well, they still have time to regress, Nick. Let's not say that. Let's not say that they're just flying high. I mean, I think during that run, the first 3 games of the 4-game win streak, you cannot deny that they were playing as good a football as any team has played here probably since '05. I mean, the numbers insist even further back than that. But, I mean, you just look at it up to the eye test. That was as good a football as the Bengals have been playing there since that run. And in the last few weeks, while they have won 2 of the last 3, there's been some of that sloppiness that's creeped back in. And you wonder if this is that December swoon that we have seen so much of under Marvin Lewis. We don't know yet, and really that will be determined over the next 2 weeks as far as how far they have come, where this team is.
You mentioned on one of your articles this week on CBSSports.com the regression of Andy Dalton. How concerned are you with the way he has played the last couple of weeks?
You know what? I wouldn't be too concerned with how he's played. He's coming along. The thing about Dalton is it's just the inaccuracy has sort of come out of nowhere. I don't think anybody expected. I mean, you look back the way he was playing during those 3 games. He had 9 touchdowns. He had 0 interceptions. I mean, he was just doing amazing things is what he was doing. I mean, it was really impressive. As good as he's ever played, it looked like he was taking the next step. And so you wonder now, has he really taken the next step when you see what you've seen the last couple of weeks? I feel like you will, much like many people on this team and Marvin Lewis, everybody will really be defined by what happens Sunday in Pittsburgh.
You could argue, too, and when you look back at it, I don't know if this really has anything to do with it, Paul, but the last couple of weeks he has not had Mohamed Sanu to throw to, and you've noticed that the passing game has not been clicking like it had been.
Yeah, I thought the biggest difference with Sanu is the red zone. He was so good down there. He had 4 touchdowns in those 3 weeks, and he gave them that second option. Teams in the red zone were keying so hard on A.J. Green with double coverage. You had one-on-ones with the other guy so often, but they weren't winning enough battles, whether it be Armand Binns, who's no longer on the team, Brandon Tate, whether it be even Baby Hawk, who had a couple of good runs. He's been injured. No one has been as consistent as Sanu was in winning those one-on-ones, and it's made all the difference down there. Now, you've seen since Sanu left, like you said, that the red zone hasn't been quite as tight. And you're going to see that again Sunday because Pittsburgh's plan, they showed it in the first game. Just do not let A.J. Green beat us no matter what, force these number 2 or 3 receivers to do it. And if they can't do it, you're going to see poor numbers from Dalton like you saw in the first game. He only threw 105 yards. But you're absolutely right. I think the Sanu injury is bigger than people want to give credit for. It had a major effect on the evolution of the offense.
Speaking of another injury, and it's somebody coming back from injury, Kyle Cook, the center, there's been some debate on the Twitterverse of whether or not having him and working him back the way that they have has kind of affected the way the line has played. We saw in the Philadelphia game, Andy Dalton had no time back there. And you could argue that the entire offensive line as a whole just did not play very well. How much of that is the fact that they're trying to work Cook back in, and what do they make of Robinson at this point?
They really like Robinson. And I talked a long time with Jay Gruden about this topic because Robinson has played really well and I think opened a lot of eyes to the point. You can just look at that by looking at the snaps. The fact that he's still getting half the snaps when there's a healthy Kyle Cook in the house tells you all you need to know. This is a guy that got a long-term contract with the Bengals because they believe he's one of their centerpieces a few years back. And Robinson's played really well. Now, every coach to a T has unanimously said that rotation has zero effect. Both guys are doing their thing, doing well, and has nothing to do with any offensive line screw-ups. There's a lot of losing one-on-one battles is what happened against Philadelphia. And really prior to that, the offensive line hadn't been having any problems. They were great in pass protection. Then Jarvis has still been running all over the place. So I can tell you what the coaches say, and that's the rotation thing has nothing to do with it. But they do love Trevor Robinson. I feel like the Pittsburgh game, though, really lends itself to Kyle Cook, Heinz Field, Dick LeBeau defense, hostile environment, a lot of silent counts, a lot of exotic defensive looks. A veteran guy who's seen it all many times from them will be a huge advantage against maybe Robinson, who his advantage right now is he's probably stronger, he's certainly healthier, has a little bit more under him. But I think this will be so much more of a mental game that I'd expect to see more Kyle Cook in this Pittsburgh game. And really, I think the biggest reason why they decided to go forward with bringing him back and keeping him in the rotation was because this is a week where he can really pay off.
Certainly has a lot more familiarity with the Steelers than Robinson does. We're joined by Paul Dehner of CBSSports.com. And, Paul, when you look at the division and everything, the way things have shaken out over the last couple of weeks, the Ravens firing their offensive coordinator, which is a panic move, and it certainly didn't help on Sunday against the Broncos. Steelers losing late in Dallas. And really now you have this opportunity in front of you from a Bengals standpoint that you could realistically win the division come a couple weeks if they do win out and beat Baltimore. Obviously they need Baltimore to lose this weekend to the Giants. But if the Bengals don't make the postseason, how much of a disappointment is that going to be as far as the fan base goes? What were the expectations really going into the season, fully knowing that Marvin in year 2 after a playoff run, they generally don't do well?
I think the expectations are pretty high. If you remember this offseason, you had this great draft that everyone was lauding. You had the extra pick off the Carson trade. Everyone thought they drafted well. It was unanimous A's across the board. Everyone, pretty much across the board liked their free agency. They didn't go and spend a bunch of money. The guys they got were solid. And they filled needs. I think everybody felt like they were in a good position. And I think the expectations were as high as could be. I think they were mentioned a lot. And I think I viewed them as a team I thought this was the year they would overtake everyone in the North. And what happened in mid-season with the lull, and really you can argue that early in the season, even though they were 3-1, they weren't playing well at all. They were just playing bad teams. And so with that lull in the middle of the season, though, I think expectations maybe altered a little bit. But now that everybody's seen how good this team can be from what happened during that 3-game stretch, and as well as they're playing now, and how poorly the Ravens and Steelers are playing, I think so much is built up into getting in the playoffs now. And really that, at the end of the day, pretty much means beating the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday. I can't remember a game with this big of stakes when you talk about how a fan base will view this season as a success or failure, whether you make the playoffs, whether you don't, what that means for a young team that's about to have to pay a ton of players in the next couple of years. Your window, it's hard to imagine the window being small with this team, but there's a lot of guys that are going to demand a lot of money in the next couple of years, and you're not going to be able to keep them all. This group has a couple of years in it, and you need to do it now, and all of that really hinges on the balance of one game at Heinz Field on Sunday. And I think this game will really define whether this season is viewed as a success or a failure in the eyes of Bengals fans, and really should be everybody else too.
So here's the big question, Paul. Do they win on Sunday?
I think they win. I do. Pittsburgh, it outside of the mental aspect of that Pittsburgh just owns this team in these types of games, they are a team trending downward. Maybe they're starting to get big bang. They have injuries all over the place, and I think the big one, Ike Taylor out on Sunday, that had a huge difference in what happened in Game 1. And when you can have AJ against an unknown type of guy, he will take advantage of that all day, no matter what schemes are being thrown at him by Dick LeBeau. Now, I feel like their injuries are just starting to pile up a little too much. The Bengals have been really healthy this year, and that's why it's hard to even complain about a guy like Mohamed Sanu getting hurt. I feel like this is the moment. Every big Bengals season, every one that has been pretty memorable for a number of reasons, has featured a signature win at Heinz Field, 05, 09. I think this could be the year that it happens again and helps get them over the hump. They could also very easily lose again, and no one will be surprised by that because they always lose at Heinz Field. But I feel like this is the year that is different.
Paul Daynard from CBSSports.com says they win on Sunday. Hey, Paul, where can they find you on the web?
You can find me on the web at CBSSports.com. Just go to the NFL page at Rapid Reports, and I'm all in there. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at CBS Bengals, and my personal account at Paul Daynard Jr.
Give him a follow. He's an entertaining follow on Twitter. I certainly endorse. Paul Daynard, thanks for joining us here on Who-Dey Weekly.
No problem. Thanks, Nick.
He brings up a lot of good points, though, Mick, especially about the Steelers.
That was a great interview, and they're not a good team, and they're a beat up team, and they've got turmoil. I mean, they're us in most years, right? And you mentioned a little bit earlier about Presley practicing, or not Presley, Pearman practicing. I read that, everyone's practicing, and the Bengals are this late in the season pretty healthy, where, the Steelers are definitely not healthy. So, everything I says I agree with, and that was a great interview, Nick.
Let's go to the Who-Dey line. Hi, who's this?
Hey, gentlemen, how are we doing?
What's up, Fatal Content?
Yeah, how's it going?
Starting to recognize the phone number and the voice.
Definitely, that's a good thing. That means I'm a regular now.
Absolutely. The weather is a lot warmer there than it is here down in South Beach, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, definitely. We can't see our breath, so we're fine over here.
What are your thoughts on Sunday, Bengals? This is their time to shine, right?
Definitely. My thoughts on this is just that it's a bit scary because there's been times where we thought this is a perfect situation. We have the opponent beat easily. And, decimated and everything, we find a way to lose. So hopefully this is not one of those weeks.
Give us a score prediction, and why not? Give us a bold prediction.
A bold prediction. My bold prediction will be that we win 27-7. Defense has a pick six.
That is bold. That is very bold. Are you going to be able to watch the game down there?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I have the Sunday ticket, so I'm always on it. I'm always on our boys.
Attaboy. Well, hey, thanks for calling in. We appreciate it. I'm glad that you're a regular now. And we're probably not going to do a show next week, but we will certainly after the week after. And hopefully the Bengals win 2 in a row, right?
Definitely. You guys keep up the great job. We love listening to you guys.
Thank you very much. That's Fatal Content down in South Beach. Who-Dey, my friend?
Who-Dey.
All right. Let's get right into our bold predictions. Mickey, you weren't here last week for this.
Hey, ladies, quit your babbling, because now's the time in the show when all the boys pull out their cojones and make bold predictions.
I wasn't kidding. That is my Uncle Rob.
I like it. That's wonderful.
It's time for bold predictions. You just heard Fatal Content give us his bold prediction. He says a pick 6 and the Bengals win 27-7. So, Mickey, I'm putting you on the spot. Give us your bold prediction and a score prediction.
All right, I'll start with the score, and I'm at 27-16. Bengals win. And my bold prediction is going to be two-parter, unrelated. The law firm goes for 140, and the Giants beat the Ravens.
That's not bold.
That's bold.
I think the Giants are going to crush the Ravens.
I do too, but I mean, and the Bengals win, and that makes next week's game so sweet.
All right, so should we predict that part now, or do you want to wait till I go?
No, go ahead.
All right, so my bold prediction, I say that the Bengals get – oh, this is tough. I say they have at least one touchdown on special teams, so either a kick return or a punt return or a punt block. That's my bold prediction. Score prediction, I'm going to keep it simple. I think it's going to be – I'd imagine the weather's probably not going to be great in Pittsburgh, playing on a grass field. It's going to be sloppy. I say Bengals win 17-10. The final score a couple weeks ago, when they played at Paul Brown Stadium on Sunday night was 24-17. So it was just one touchdown game. So I'll say 17-10. The Bengals win. Since we're not going to do a show next week, let's boldly predict what happens. Since we're both saying the Bengals win against the Steelers, that means they could potentially be playing. And I'll throw this scenario at you first before you make your prediction. Let's say Baltimore beats the Giants. They've clinched the division, and the Bengals win. That means the game against Baltimore has no meaning, has no bearing on seeding, means absolutely nothing. Would you rest your starters, or would you treat it like maybe the third preseason game? How would you approach that?
If the Baltimore beats the Giants,
they've clinched the AFC North,
and they would be the 4th seed in the playoffs.
Correct.
So there's no chance we'd play them.
No.
Well,
unless we moved on.
Right. I'm talking about back to back.
Right.
That's a tougher one to predict. I mean, because you don't know what the two. I mean, there's a lot of factors there. I don't even want to predict that one. The Bengals win that one 300-4.
That is bold right there, folks.
Because who knows who they're playing or who we're playing. I mean, there's a lot there. If the game matters, I think the Bengals win 27-24.
All right. But do you see what I'm saying, though? Like, would you treat it as a normal game, or would you treat it as a preseason game and get your starters out, get your guys out so nobody gets hurt? If there's no meaning, if they can't improve their, if after Sunday.
The first half coming at, I'd play it like the third preseason game, probably.
See, I'm a torn because I remember they did that a couple years ago. Now, unfortunately, they had to play the Jets back to back.
No, they didn't. They didn't even do that. We had 11 yards of offense at the half. Right. I mean, so they didn't even. I was at that game in the Meadowlands, the last game ever.
Ouch!
It was negative 10 degrees outside. The wind chill was ridiculous. They didn't even show up that game. So I would play it like the third preseason game where you actually try for the first, 2 quarters plus. But then, I mean, it doesn't matter. You don't want to be, killing yourself at the end of the game, getting stupid injuries.
But you and I both are in agreement that there's no way the Ravens are beating the Giants.
Yeah, I don't think they will.
Their saving grace is that game is in Baltimore. That is it.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Giants just got shellacked by the Falcons, so they need a win badly. I just have a hard time thinking that the Giants are going to play poorly 2 weeks in a row, especially with everything that they have on the line. There's a 3-way tie for the the NFC East at 8-6. So I think the Giants win. The Ravens are in huge turmoil. No offense. Defense is old and banged up, and I'm telling you, this is the perfect opportunity for the Bengals to win the AFC North. So you said if it's a game that has meaning and they need to win, you're saying what? What was the score? I can't remember.
27-24.
27-24. That's a good one. I'll one-up you. I'll go Bengals 21. I'm sorry, Bengals 24-21. So I go just a little lower. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to hear your predictions. Email us at podcast@whodeyfans.com. Just a reminder, hey, everybody, we record the show live each and every Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern on like I said, Wednesday nights at whodeyfans.com/video. Please come and join us. We invested all this money in nice equipment with these microphones and these awesome cameras. Come look at our pretty faces. We'd love to see you, Bengals fans. The chat room active tonight. Donnie Redboy is in here. Our friend Kurt from North Carolina, a North Carolina Bengals fan. Turns out Mike Donnelly from Scotland, who we heard from earlier, is also in the chat room. Thanks again to him for sending us that audio. Very cool. Mike Donnelly says Andy goes 200 yards passing, 20 yards rushing, and he's 24 of 28. That right there is bold. Kurt says 20-17, Bengals win. At least I am assuming Bengals win. He doesn't say a team. But again, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Emails podcast@whodeyfans.com. I should real quickly do the Who-Dey Weekly poll question since we haven't done this in a while.
It's time now for the Who-Dey Weekly poll question.
It's real simple, folks. Will the Bengals be AFC North champs? Log on to whodeyfans.com and take part. I voted yes. I'm assuming, Mickey, you voted yes as well.
I'm voting right now, yes.
There you have it. Log on whodeyfans.com and take part in the Who-Dey Weekly poll question brought to you by Amazon.com. Hey, you have some last-minute shopping to do. Check us out, spnt.tv/Amazon. It doesn't cost you any more, and it helps send some money our way. Again, that's spnt.tv/Amazon. Well, Mick, thank you again for joining me this week. Hopefully that you and your family have a safe and happy Merry Christmas. Enjoy the game on Sunday. Hopefully the Bengals pull it out.
Yeah, they will. That'll be the best present, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, I even have written down Christmas wishes, so I think we both would agree. Our one and only Christmas wish is the Bengals to beat the Steelers, correct?
That's definitely my sport one.
I don't want to get into the other one. A little personal.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's going to wrap up episode 94. Our special thanks to Paul Daner of CBSSports.com for joining us this week. Don't forget, you can email us podcast@whodeyfans.com and give us a follow on Twitter @WhodeyWeekly. Who-Dey Weekly is an SPNT production. For more information about our other podcasts, log on to spnt.tv. For my co-host, Mickey Metzer, and our good friend Tim Bates, I'm Nick Suberling. We'll see you next time on Who-Dey Weekly. Who-Dey. Who-Dey.